Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Have you ever found yourself scrolling endlessly on your phone, only to realize you have no idea what you were even looking at? Or maybe you open an app with a specific task in mind, but then poof, your focus vanishes, and you're lost in a sea of random content. Trust me, you are not alone, because I've been there too. In fact, I realized I was experiencing something I want to talk to you about today, something called brain rot. Now don't worry. It's not some scary zombie movie thing. But it is a real issue, and it's something that I personally had to confront. I started noticing some unsettling patterns. I'd forget important appointments, my focus would drift away like a leaf in the wind, and the smallest things would irritate me. Even things I used to enjoy, like reading a book or watching a short video, felt like a chore. My brain felt sluggish. Thinking itself became difficult, and honestly, if something required a lot of mental effort, I found myself relying on AI tools just to get through it. Sound familiar? Have you ever felt like your brain just stopped working the way it used to? If so, you might be experiencing the same thing I was, brain rot, or what the Oxford Dictionary recently recognized in 2024 as a significant term. It's not technically a disease, but it's a mental state that can be even worse. The dictionary defines it as a decline in mental or cognitive function due to excessive consumption of trivial or low-quality content. Think about it. How many hours do we spend scrolling through social media? Our brains are constantly bombarded with fleeting, often meaningless content, negative news, and those perfectly filtered images that can leave us feeling inadequate. Our brains try to adapt to this constant influx of shallow information, and it leads to something called mental fatigue. It's like our minds get stuck in a state of overstimulation. The result? Our mental health suffers. We lose our ability to focus, to study, to work, and even to think clearly about the bigger picture. To really understand why this is happening, let's take a quick look back at how our brains are wired. Believe it or not, our brains today aren't that different from the brains of our ancient ancestors. Back then, survival was the key. Our brains were programmed to focus on what mattered for staying alive, filtering out distractions. If someone was hunting, their mind was laser-focused on the prey and any potential dangers. Achieving the goal, catching food, released dopamine, a feel-good chemical that rewarded their efforts. Now fast forward to today. Our brains still have that same basic programming, but the input has changed dramatically. We're getting dopamine hits, but instead of earning them through effort, we're getting them from endless scrolling, playing games, and consuming content that often has no real value. The crazy thing is, our brains don't always differentiate between the dopamine we get from hard work, like exercising, and the dopamine we get from passively scrolling through social media. The reward system fires up either way. However, the dopamine hit from social media is cheap and short-lived. The effect fades quickly, leaving our brains wanting more and more. This creates a vicious cycle of constant consumption, and it can become addictive. This is where neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt to its environment, comes into play. Our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on our experiences. Before smartphones and social media, these adaptations happened more gradually. But now, our brains are adapting almost daily to the constant stream of new information and stimuli. And with the rise of AI, there's a real concern about the potential impact on our cognitive abilities. Think about the last 15 years or so. Our brains have increasingly become accustomed to getting dopamine from easy sources like social media, video games, and online pornography. As a result, addiction rates to this type of content have surged. Our brains have developed a craving for this instant gratification, even though the satisfaction is fleeting. This leads our brains to neglect the expensive dopamine that comes from effort and achievement. Our attention spans shrink, our patience wears thin, and the very idea of working hard for something feels less appealing. On the flip side, procrastination and laziness start to take over. I've heard from teachers that students struggle to focus for extended periods. The younger generation, the iPad generation, has grown up with this readily available dopamine, and they often don't know what it's like to work for a reward or to have the patience for things that require time and effort. Studies show that their attention spans are significantly shorter. They struggle to watch a half-hour lecture or read a longer book without reaching for their phones. This has contributed to increased rates of idleness and lethargy in both younger and older generations. It's almost as if we've lost our tolerance for boredom. But think about it. Many great achievements and inventions came from moments of boredom. How can you feel bored when you have a device in your hand that offers instant access to almost anything you desire, just a swipe away? Because of our brain's neuroplasticity, this constant distraction starts to feel normal. And if you think this is just a temporary phase, think again. A study on young adults addicted to social media found that their mental health was significantly weakened. They lost the ability to plan, organize, solve problems, make decisions, study, and work effectively. If this continues, we risk becoming completely reliant on our devices, losing our ability to think for ourselves. The excessive use of social media weakens the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that distinguishes us from animals. Remember, in today's world, our attention is the most valuable thing, and the content we consume on social media is often the cheapest. If someone can capture our attention with low-quality content, they can influence our actions. By studying what grabs our attention, they can essentially control us. While the internet has brought incredible benefits, the way our brains are interacting with it is the problem. What is your attitude online? Are you working, learning, or just mindlessly scrolling? There's no one forcing us to consume trivial content, we do it ourselves. Yet we have access to an almost limitless amount of learning resources online, for free. So, how does our brain actually improve? It learns through repetition. Repeating information or practicing a skill creates new neural pathways in our brains. But what happens when we live in an environment where constant notifications and distractions prevent us from focusing? Our brains can't form those strong neural connections. In fact, we start to rely on external memory, our phones, for information. Why bother memorizing something when you can just Google it or save it on your phone? This constant reliance on external sources leads to a brain that's used to operating at double speed. We skip through lectures and movies just to get to the end. We lose the ability to simply enjoy the process. The result is weakened memory, mood swings, decreased productivity, and a decline in creativity. Our brains literally start to rot. Okay, so you might be thinking, great, my brain is rotting. Is there any hope? Well, remember that neuroplasticity I mentioned? Thankfully, it works both ways. Just as our brains have adapted to cheap dopamine and constant stimulation, we can retrain them to appreciate the expensive dopamine and start to reverse the damage. Now let's be realistic. This isn't going to be easy, and it will take time, effort, and consistency. Think of it like going back to the gym after a long break. It's tough at first, your body aches, but with persistence, you get stronger. Your mental health is like a muscle you need to exercise. So how did I start to fix this in about 30 days? Here's what I did, and what you can do too. First, you need to become aware of the problem. You need to understand the extent of the damage that's being done in the short and long term. Without awareness, you can't solve the problem. This is what I call your mental posture. Right now, your brain rot might have your mind on autopilot. It's used to reaching for your phone whenever you feel bored, first thing in the morning, while eating, or even when you're with friends. The first step is to reclaim control over your actions and not be a slave to your impulses. Start paying attention to when you feel that urge to grab your phone. You can use built-in phone features like screen time to track how much you're using your phone, how often you pick it up, and which apps you spend the most time on. This gives you valuable insights into your behavior. It's like taking a step back to observe yourself. This awareness will help you identify the triggers that lead to mindless scrolling. Remember, you're not an animal driven purely by instinct. You might feel weak against certain desires, but that's often because these platforms are designed to exploit your weaknesses and grab your attention. They use the same tactics as slot machines, where every swipe or tap triggers the dopamine centers in your brain, encouraging you to keep going. Once you're aware of the problem, the next crucial step is to clean up your environment. This means turning off unnecessary notifications from all your apps. Uninstall apps you don't really need or that constantly distract you when you're trying to focus. Now I know completely deleting social media might feel impossible for some, and you might just reinstall it anyway. But at the very least, curate your social media feed. Unfollow accounts that waste your time and replace them with content that helps you grow and develop. When you see content you know you tend to get lost in, use the not interested option to retrain the algorithm to show you more of what you actually want. I'm not saying you can never have fun online, but try to flip the ratio. Instead of 90% trivial content and maybe 10% useful stuff, aim for the opposite. And it's not just your digital environment. Clean up your real-life environment too. Surround yourself with people who are driven and ambitious. Put yourself in a circle of people who are focused on their goals. You'll find that your own brain naturally starts to strive for growth and improvement. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. By cleaning up your daily surroundings, you're essentially reprogramming your brain to support your goals. It's like trying to stick to a diet while your house is full of junk food. It's an uphill battle. Now we get to the going to the gym part for your brain. This means going back to those expensive sources of dopamine and stop taking the cheap route. As a general rule, any dopamine source tied to your phone is likely cheap. Try to reconnect with nature and engage in activities that require effort to see results. Try new things. Read books in subjects you enjoy. Play games that challenge your mind instead of just mindlessly scrolling. Learn a new skill or a new subject. Spend time with friends without constantly checking your phone. Try a new sport or go to the actual gym. Find ways to occupy your time that don't involve your phone. You need to constantly resist that urge to reach for your phone for instant comfort. Retrain your brain for patience and reduce distractions. If you don't, this lack of focus and patience will have a devastating impact on your life. You'll always look for the easy way out and struggle to stick with anything that requires sustained effort, like going to the gym, studying, or working on long-term projects. You might even become more susceptible to instant gratification and less able to resist negative impulses. This can even affect your perspective on life's challenges. When faced with difficulties, if your brain is used to instant fixes, you might struggle with patience and resilience. If you've made it this far in the video, congratulations. You're already part of a smaller percentage of people who can sustain their attention. And that means there's definitely hope for you. Brain rot isn't a permanent condition. Our brains are like muscles. You just need to stop feeding them junk food. You don't have to make drastic changes overnight. Don't feel like you need to delete all your social media apps and start a completely new life tomorrow. Often, those who start too fast end up burning out quickly. The most important thing is to be aware now that what you're consuming is affecting your brain. Remember, you can't feed your brain garbage and expect it to produce gold. Yes, it will feel uncomfortable and challenging at first. But I'm guessing you're not entirely happy with the way things are now and the potential problems you might face in the future. One last thing, if you found this helpful, please give this video a like. It helps us promote content that can actually benefit people. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments what topics you'd like me to cover next. The topics with the most likes will be my priority. Remember, the first step to change is understanding yourself. So take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.